Good morning. Welcome to the Big Questions. I'm Nicky Campbell. David Cameron toured the turbulent Middle East this week with a posse of defence contractors. Did it make you proud to be British or just a little bit queasy? Our first big question, should Britain be ashamed of its arms trade? This trade unionist says we should celebrate the Prime Minister's salesmanship because it generates billions in exports and thousands of jobs. New guidelines were on adoption were issued on Tuesday by Michael Gove to encourage more interracial adoptions. He said left-wing prescriptions are denying children the love they need. Our next big question, should adoption be colourblind? This woman says being raised by a white family made her feel that being black was a bad thing. And our last big question is about something the Hindu and Sikh communities believe in, reincarnation. Have we all been here before? Well, this morning, what do you think about this? It's a murky old business. Do you feel queasy when you see what's happening on the streets of these Middle Eastern countries to whom we have sold arms?
Absolutely, I think everyone does. But the first thing to say is, of course, the largest amount of killing that's happened anywhere on that continent in recent years, I'm thinking of the massacre, the genocide in Rwanda, was carried out by people wielding knives and machetes. So you don't need, as it were, high-caliber arms to commit, mass murder and genocide. But look, I mean, the arms trade is a legal trade, like tobacco and all sorts of other things which some people disagree with and don't like and so on. But it's a legal trade, and there are obviously times when you sell arms to people where it's perfectly good. It helps, as the gentleman said, to defend a government. On the other hand, of course, there are many cases, and Libya is an obvious one recently, where there's absolutely no way that Britain should be involved in trading with such a place. I mean, if this were, say, gun licensing in Britain, it's legal to own a gun and everything, but we don't sell guns to children or to madmen for a very good reason. And it should be the same thing in the arms.
But it was part of a broader strategic diplomatic perspective, because William Hague said it was part of encouraging Colonel Gaddafi to give up weapons of mass destruction.
Exactly. Libya came in from the cold on the WMD issue, and as a result, Britain loosened some of its exports to Libya.
Just this week, I went to visit Tunisia, and I met people there who were facing the bullets, who were facing the so-called crowd control mechanisms. People have been tortured, not just now. I know people are waking up to what's been going on in the Middle East, but these arms have been used to repress very consciously, very brutally, the very democratic processes we then go around the world saying we want these people to have. I think it is deeply immoral and deeply disturbing that this happens.
Who would you sell arms to?
So I don't think we should be encouraging the arms industry full stop. And the idea
but people need arms.
that British jobs are at risk, or that that they're actually providing something positive to the economy, actually is not true.
So the
arms industry.
So we shouldn't have a national army either?
May I finish? The arms industry actually is subsidised by us. It's not that they're providing jobs for British workers. We, the British public, are helping huge profits for a group of lobbyists, for a group of arms manufacturers who actually have a vested interest in more conflict in the world so they can make more profit. We should have an approach in this country which is about peace, invest that money instead in renewable energy.
Just let me ask you, war is a reality, Salma. Your Prophet Muhammad, for example, he was a warrior, he fought lots of battles, he had to get his arms. If he was around now, where would he buy his weapons from? Russia?
The question is, where should we be investing our money? What should be the direction of our country? The fact that £5 billion every year of public taxes is put in to subsidise the arms industry, I think is problematic. We can put that money into different manufacturing. We have a huge climate change challenge.
Should we have an arms industry? Should we have an arms industry?
Yes, we should have an arms industry.
We can survive without one. 0.2% of the workforce.
Yes, we should have an arms industry. And yes, let's also move this on to the economic. You've touched on it. 500,000 jobs in the defence industry as a whole.
And they can go to different jobs.
Of which 50,000, a very small part, are related to defence. But I mean, in your scenario,
that these jobs
even Western nations would remove their own armies, and the political systems.
Wait, Howard.
The political systems would break down if your scenario occurred. I mean, armies are there to protect their people, to protect their systems, whether it's a democratic system or not.
To other countries. Yes, we have to defend ourselves. Yes, we have to have.
Douglas, we sold arms to the Israelis, and they used those arms and components certainly when they were bombing the Gaza Strip. Was that justifiable morally?
Yes, I mean, if an allied country who you're selling arms to, I don't think we do actually have an arms trade at all with Israel anymore.
We do.
No, the last government,
91
William
export licenses
William
last year.
Hague made this after the Gaza intervention, if I remember
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But look, I mean, the point is this: is that you know what Salma says is well, there's a time coming when we could just convert our arms industry to a green windmill production industry. I think it's fantasy. There is always going to because first of all, people will always there will always be wars. There will always be wars because there will always be the need for deterrence, even without people using it as well. And hang on, if you let me finish. Because as I've already said, there will be governments that are responsible allies whom it's perfectly fine to sell arms to. In my opinion, it's a legal trade.
Libya was a responsible ally? Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt, Saudi Arabia?
No, we're going to agree on all of this. If you just stop interrupting me, you'll find out that we have agreement, ladies and gentlemen. Which is that, of course, Libya was not a respectable government. Of course not. Nobody should sell arms to a madman like Gaddafi and his family. But no, I don't know. Of course that's not the case.
Okay, but who would you sell arms to? Who would you sell arms to with a clear conscience?
I think that, for instance, somebody mentioned it earlier, it's perfectly responsible to say, yeah, absolutely, India, and many other countries.
Despite the fact it's broken so many international laws, they don't adhere to the
we're not going to get onto your pet obsession of Israel.
I think it's
hard as I try.
But the thing is this: is as I say, there are people who you will sell arms to who will be responsible governments like the British government and our allies. But there will be other sort of tyrants who will turn them on their own people, and we should never sell to them.
People, this is a weird scenario that we have.
When it comes to the Middle East, I mean, we're not going to agree. Almost every single country in the region is a sink despotic dictatorship. So I mean, it's not a great region to talk about, you know, which countries.
But we have massive business there.
But this comes actually to what the lady said here, which is, I mean, and I agree with what the gentleman said earlier about the BAE scandal during Tony Blair's time. This is a very important thing to get right. If you have rules in place, you should not be able to completely contravene them. Now, what Blair did, and the government did at that point, of covering up that inquiry into the BAE selling of arms to Saudi Arabia was undoubtedly appalling, because apart from anything else, the rule of law was questionable in the whole thing.
The law was questionable. That was the issue. At the time of these accusations were made, the law was not wholesome.
And that
law has been tightened up with the Bribery Act.
Is there this morning? What do you make of this fascinating conversation between Ben and Derek and Precious?
I find it very worrying. I mean, I hear dogma going on of a new kind, a dogma of race. And it's effectively the flip side of racism. Exactly. To say I mean, first of all, the idea that the child is brought up in whatever, you know, DNA they've inherited, whatever skin pigmentation they're brought up in that culture per se. I don't see that at all. I mean, somebody mentioned earlier, you know, bringing up children in black culture. What on earth? I mean, it's like saying white culture. I'll bring up a child in white culture. It's a horrible thing just to hear. But what does it mean? But look, the crucial thing here, the reason why Michael Gove has introduced this, as I understand it, is the following. There are a lot of children who are not being adopted and who need families. Those are the people, before any dogma of the race relations industry or all sorts of other things comes in, it should be those children that we focus on. And if those children are not getting a loving home and they could get one, with the parents that want to take them in, I think we should celebrate that.
Hear, hear.
Secondly,
there is another thing, though. If you are adopted, some people who are adopted feel kind of different and they feel alienated and they can at times feel very alone. And if you are of a different colour to your parents, that can be even more acute.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, children who are adopted can feel that anyway.
So you're perhaps making it even worse.
But look, if the point is here, should the state decide this child is of this background and therefore we'll put him this, or would you just stand back and say, if you are a set of parents who want to adopt this child, whatever colour, whatever background the child is, then we will allow you to do that? Surely that's the most basic, sensible thing to deal with this problem.
And I think that's dangerous, so I think religion can be used as a force for good, as well as oppression.
Thoughts?
Well, I mean, my initial thought is simply that the whole idea of reincarnation is just another of the things that humans have come up with to console themselves about reality, which is that when they die, they die. And there have been all sorts of systems that have come up over the years to try to deal with this fear that human beings have always had, the most elemental fear. The fact that it's not true, I don't think, doesn't mean that good can't come from it. Personally, I believe that, for instance, the idea that in your life you strive throughout your life to be better, I mean, you know, my own feeling is that religions, when they're best, are metaphorical. And this is a perfectly good example of it. I don't think the lady at the back there has ever been anything else other than who she is now, whatever she thinks. But
what do you think about these children who have extraordinary memories of past lives? And
you know,
what's going on?
Well, what's going on? They've made it up. They've invented it, of course. But look, just find it. I mean, it doesn't hang on, but it doesn't mean that good. Can I just finish? It doesn't. There's no scientific research that's shown this. There's no quantum physics, as the lady there said.
Andrea, there are examples. Wait a minute.
Can I just say
whatever the reasons for them are, of children coming out with extraordinary
yes,
facts.
Children remember past lives. Can I just mention, first of all, you mentioned the Bible, but you need to look at the Aramaic text, which goes back 6,000 years, and in it he says, Jesus says, I was Elijah before. No, the Aramaic text, you maybe don't know about the Aramaic text, but
I think you've lowered Douglas's brain frequency.
I've set his ego
You keep on
rattling.
throwing jargon at people, but if you didn't allow me to finish my point, which was this, that this whole idea, although it's false, I think, is nevertheless has good that comes. I think the idea that people strive throughout their lives for betterment like that is obviously a good idea. If people get that from religion, then great. You don't need religion for that. But good. No, you don't. I can assure you, madam, that the lady there and I don't need to pretend that we used to be somebody.
What does Derek think of it?